For those of you who have been here before, those of you who are coming and will be here, the session is being recorded, as you probably well know. But this is Cyversity's Engage program. Today is Saturday, January 22nd, and this is the first of our 2022 campaign, 2022 interview series. And today we're going to be interviewing the executive director from Cyversity. But just to go through what we typically go through here, you know who Cyversity is. This is what our Cyversity programs are involved in, designing to, we're here to design and grow and develop, highlight careers, career opportunities, contributions that we make at Cyversity, and as a cybersecurity community to cybersecurity. So we've got a couple of things that we do here that are of interest to all of our members and to the general public. Cyversity in general, and our Impact Alumni group in particular, has some particular topic areas that we focus on. Of course, alumni development is our new mantra. We've been the Hustlers Club for literally a little over 3 years, but however, now we're moving to doing some alumni development. Our leadership, we're going to be working on leadership as we always do, mentorship, spotlighting careers. This is what these interviews are about, and then transitioning from where you are to where you like to be in cybersecurity. And a couple of folks online are involved in that process now. And of course, we're doing tech talks. You're likely very familiar with our mission. It's to achieve the consistent representation of women and minorities in cybersecurity here at Cyversity. And we do that through programs that are definitely designed to foster recruitment and inclusion, and of course, retention. Getting the job is one thing, staying there is another thing, and staying there because you like it there is a whole different paradigm as well. As you can see, we've got quite a few benefits: career exploration and development, skills, cybersecurity skills and assessments through our competency core and several other programs and tools that we have. Developing your career through Cyversity engagements like this one, or events like this one, scholarships, trainings, and mentorship programs, and also developing networking connections through our various processes. And of course, the alumni program is something that is going to be focused on developing a full network, developing the ability to collaborate and give back to the community that's probably given some things to you. Basic ground rules, to mute your account, as many of you are already muted. Mute your laptops, your phones, or what have you, so that there's no background noise. We're going to be talking for about 60 minutes, focusing on leadership, diversity, and inclusion. Of course, alumni participation. And today we're going to be hearing a good deal about Cyversity, where we're going, the roadmap for 2022. It's going to be a question and answer period after the conversation, the close of the conversation. So put your questions in the chat box, or as I always say, don't put them in the chat box. Come off mute, come on camera and talk to us so that we can have a good conversation. Session is being recorded, as you know, and it's going to be distributed upon request. Today we're talking with Maggie Domond. Maggie is the executive director for Cyversity. She's incoming executive director and has a full background, if you will, of expertise in association management, in nonprofit management, in meeting management, developing organizations to exhibit their full potential and their full collaborative capabilities and their full diversity of tools for the populations that they serve. Maggie is an expert in that particular area, and she's coming to us today to talk about her role here at Cyversity. I'm going to keep it there. I'm going to stop sharing here for a second and get back to you guys. New share, that says. I don't want to do that. Stop sharing. There you go. All right, Maggie, I can see you. You can see me. Hey, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Kershawn, how are you? Oh, good. I've got a couple of questions, but often I start these conversations with the question of telling us a little bit about yourself. You and I have just gotten to know each other as you come to Cyversity, and welcome.
Thank you.
We're really looking forward to some great things with you, great innovative moves and potential with you. But for the folks that are here, and for perpetuity for the recording, just tell everybody who you are, a little bit about yourself, your journey, your background, so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. And first of all, David, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to chat with you and the other folks on the line here this afternoon. So my origin story. Very interesting. I majored in political science in college, and my intention was to pursue a career in law. You know, my mentor was my godmother, and she was a lawyer, and I just worshiped her, and I wanted to follow in her footsteps. But lo and behold, as life would have it, curveball. um, I, during the summer of my junior year in college, I interned at the National Association of Home Builders. And so it's an association, and I got engulfed in the association world. I was exposed to, working with the meetings department, the membership department, government relations. So I really got a chance to see the breadth and width of all of the different components of association management, and I fell in love with it. So I, obviously went on to graduate. When I came back, I broke my godmother's heart. I told her, sorry, I'm not going to be a lawyer. And so I decided to take a role at a full-time role, a paid role, I should say, at the National Association of Home Builders. And so from there, I worked for a variety of associations in the Washington, D.C. area. I don't know if you know it, but they're like 23,000 associations, and most of them are in DC. So I work primarily in meetings, like you said in the intro. And then in 2014, I was, at not the top of my career, but I had reached a really senior level in the organization. And unfortunately, my dad fell ill. And so, being an immigrant, his English wasn't very good. So I decided, okay, I need to quit my job and take care of him. And I did that. And I'm really glad that I had an opportunity to do that, because he actually passed on a few months later. So in 2015, I asked myself the hard question of, Maggie, what is it that you really want to do? What do you want the next chapter of your career, your professional life to look like? And I decided I really wanted to give back to my community. It was no longer about the money for me. Then and there, I said, I've got to do something that feeds my soul, that really fulfills me. So I got connected with Thurman Jones, who is the president of the Patriots Technology Center, worked with him in a variety of roles, and ultimately ended up being the vice president of operations with Patriots. And then, lo and behold, present day, fast forward to August 2021, saw this wonderful opportunity to work with Cyversity. And, the mission of the organization really clicked with me. I had like this personal resonance of, the passion around uplifting women and underrepresented minorities. And I jumped at the chance to, to interview for this role. And then speaking with Larry and Sharon and Julian and all those other leaders, you know how passionate they are. Man, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was all in. And I said, this is really an organization that I can get behind. And so I see a lot of potential for Cyversity. We have come a long way. We're doing great things, and we're just going to, continue to build on that success.
That is great.
So that's my origin story.
There you go. And and as you were answering questions, I'm like, she's answering question number 3. She's answering question number. And that's good, okay, though. It's good though, because all included in your in your response, you could hear that from one end of your journey to the next, these things followed suit and they connected themselves one to another. And then you got to the point where you said, hey, this is not about the money anymore. This is just about how I support and supply and provide to the community itself. And here, here's what I want to do and give back. And when you think about that, and everybody on the call, for all of you folks on the call, if you have questions, because this is going to be a real interactive conversation, right? So if you have a question that you want to just raise your hand and you can jump on and talk with Maggie. But in the meantime, Maggie, I always ask this question of folks, especially after they give uh, sort of dialogue about where they come from, who they are, and why they're here. I always ask them, hey, look, there's for me,
Mhm.
there's this why in my life,
Mhm.
right? And this why happens to be the question you asked me earlier. You're from Texas, you live in Texas, but that voice is New York. And of course, that voice is New York, based around the fact that I grew up in a very incredibly impoverished neighborhood called
Mhm.
Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And so my why was part of what happened with me when I left that community and got an opportunity to go on and move on and get to where I am today. As I look back at that community, it's an incredibly rough and tumble neighborhood. I
Mhm.
didn't get a chance to do anything there until I was able to take Department of Homeland Security to a junior high school and start teaching cybersecurity there with one of the NERC foundations that is
Mhm.
supported by Department of Homeland Security. So my why is I'm from that hood, if you will.
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
gotten a chance to get out of the hood. I played a little basketball to get out. Yeah, I played a little
Okay.
basketball to get out.
Nothing wrong with that.
But right, I use that as my plan B to get out. My
Mhm.
plan A was education. And
Mhm.
so I've gotten out. Now I would like to know, do you have in your mind, in your core, a specific why or a specific group of whys that powers you to where you are and what you've done?
My why, David, is really the mission of the organization, uplifting women and underrepresented minorities. The struggle is real out here for Black women, women of color, underrepresented minorities. That struggle is real. And I really want to work towards building more Black leaders, empowering folks um, in the profession, in their profession, helping them to grow and develop into leadership roles so that they can bring up the next generation of leaders. That's my why. That's why I get up in the morning every day and work as hard as I do, to get the scholarships, to develop all this programming so that folks can really build and expand their careers.
Yeah. I'm going to try. Darwin, you might have to mute because we can hear you in the background there. But nonetheless, I wanted to sort of turn the conversation from where it is over to Cyversity, and then
Sure.
ask the question about, you're here, you've taken the mantle and control of the organization to a great
Mhm.
degree. What what's the roadmap look like a little bit? Just give us if you can give us a high level and whatever you can share about our secret plans to take over the world. Whatever, if you could share some of our plans and what we're going to be doing, just give us a highlight, and speak verbosely about what it is that where we're going as Cyversity.
Sure. So the two big overarching goals for Cyversity in 2022 is really building up that membership, getting that membership number from now today, it's about 3,300 to 5,000
Nice.
members. And then we also want to achieve 80% engagement. We want the members to engage with us, to, join the community, build their networks, and, really give back ultimately to the community. So how are we going to do that? We've got, Larry, he's a big guy. He thinks big, right? So we have a lot of programs and initiatives, to get us to those goals. So the first one is the collective. So the idea behind the collective is, okay, Cyversity can't do everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to partner with other organizations to fill some of our programmatic gaps. So what do I mean by that? For example, ITSMF, they do executive leadership really well. So, we may partner with them on a program around executive leadership. Right now, Cyversity doesn't have that, but we can work with other organizations, like I said, to, fill in the gaps where, fill in those programmatic gaps. There are other partners who do, K through 12 education really well. So, just really bringing the community together and working together to fill all of those gaps so that folks can go through the pipeline of, coming out of college and, and then joining Cyversity and then building their careers with us. The second initiative we're gonna do, David, is we're gonna bring back the in-person annual conference. So knock on wood, if we get to a place with COVID where we can do that, that is our intention. And we are currently negotiating with a hotel in Orlando, Florida. And we're hoping to finalize that the negotiations fairly soon so that we can announce the final dates. I'm really excited about that. I mean, I love meetings, particularly in-person meetings. I can't wait to get out there and shake hands and meet some of my Cyversity members, So that's something that we're working on for 2022. And then we're also working to broaden our mentorship program. Mentorship is key, right? So, listen, look who I'm talking to about mentorship, the king of mentorship himself. That's really key. And, we really want to have the mentorship program be a source of fulfillment and just helping folks grow their careers, helping them develop their a career plan, career pathing, and all that, all that good stuff. And then obviously, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No. I'm taking notes because I'm developing follow-up questions, even though we've got quite a few questions already. Yep. But as you go through the next steps for Cyversity in 2022 and beyond, I was just taking some notes. So please continue, and I'll just chime in after you finish.
Sure. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of 2022 goals is building our scholarships and our training programs, and continuing to work with our corporate partners to provide those trainings so that to upskill our members. We're right now in the process of working with one of our partners to develop BSO level training for our members. We want to really provide training and resource opportunities for people at every level of their career, entry level, to expert level. So that's why, we're partnering with one of our folks to provide the BSO level training. And then we also have on Monday, as a matter of fact, Monday, January 24th, we're going to open the scholarship application for a scholarship that we work with Intuit on. And it's really a great opportunity for, folks to learn about GRC and cloud computing and, application security and all of that. So
nice.
If anybody's interested, be sure to go on the website and get the information. Like I said, the application is going to open on Monday, and we'll take as many folks as we can get.
Nice. Actually, I saw Darwin put something on Facebook, not Facebook, on LinkedIn that was talking about that was focused on the Intuit scholarship. That is great. Intuit's a venerable organization, been around quite some time, and have quite some. That they're stepping into this particular end of the business is interesting. I wanted to go back to some of the points that you made, especially around partnering with other organizations. Are those other organizations similar to ours in terms of membership development? And what do we bring to them in a general sense, in a high level sense? And what do they bring to us in a general sense, if you will?
So the other partners obviously are going to be like-minded organizations who really focus on uplifting women and minorities. What we would bring to them is all of our member benefits, right? The scholarships, the training, all of those. And Cyversity, we really see ourselves as that big tent, because a lot of organizations focus on women exclusively, for example, or exclusively focus on Blacks or, Latinx or what have you. But, Cyversity is the big 10, and we really want to be the leaders in the cybersecurity industry, for training, for mentorship, for scholarships.
Right. Great, great. And then there was the conversation about K through 12 initiatives. It's, at least in New York that I've seen,
Mhm.
it's somewhat tough to grab all of those students. And I'm working with a couple of universities myself at Austin, Brooklyn, working with a couple of universities to sort of grab those folks in the formative years around junior high school,
Mhm.
focus them in, knowing and experiencing, not just knowing, but experiencing that we're going to have quite a few folks. We're going to lose some in the process too. So we cast this broad net, bring in those that have this real sense of interest, and then go through the process of training and training and training and hoping that they'll stay with us. Are some of our initiatives with organizations that specifically focus in K through 12, or have this broader focus but include K through 12? I asked
Yeah.
that because, yeah, go ahead, and you can answer, please.
I'm sorry. So the answer to the question is yes, it has a broader focus. So we're talking about, strengthening that pipeline, beginning with K through 12, and then as folks move to their collegiate, to the college level, and then move into a career in cybersecurity. So it's very broad. The partners that we will be working with, again, it's very broad, and they have expertise in various areas. So we just want to work with them to, like I said, broaden that pipeline and take folks and really mentor folks from that K through 12, and then moving them along the pipeline so that we don't lose them, like you talked about. It's about retaining.
Right, right. Is
Retention.
the, yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Is the,
Mhm.
are the programs for the K through 12 kids focused solely around technical things, or are they skills development? Because at least in some of the programs that I've been involved with, it's business
Mhm.
skills, communication skills, and of course, technology skills, because you're going to need all three of those to be somewhat
Exactly.
successful. What are we focused on? What are we focused on? Are we focused technologically, or are we focused on communications or business skills?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it is going to be focused around technology. But
Mhm.
to your point, when you're a professional, you're going to need all of those skills of, communication, organization, and so forth. And, even financial management, all those
Right,
kinds of skills are really important to have. And, long-term goal is to offer programming, in all of those areas. But
right.
for now, we're going to start with
Great,
technology.
great. Looking forward to the conference. And I think this year, and I'm not sure if it's for a couple of years, but this year we're gonna have it in Orlando. Are we
Yes.
planning to expand it outside of Orlando, or are plans just to stay in Orlando for a couple of years, and then uh, what are the plans?
Yeah,
That's
I'm not sure. So it could be any number of those possibilities. It's really going to depend on what we can negotiate with the hotel. My preference would be to move the conference somewhere different every year. And, we may go back to Atlanta, in 2 or 3 years, what have you, but not having the conference in the same location, 2 or 3 years consecutively. So for example, 2022 might be Orlando, 2024, 2023 might be Austin, Texas.
I was gonna mention that. I was gonna mention that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's great. That's great. So
David,
having
real quick,
been here,
I'm
having been
sorry. I
here.
just wanted to jump in while we're still on the topic of the conferences. And Maggie, definitely thank you for the time today. I also just wanted to ask,
Mhm.
what's the time frame for when we're looking to hold the conference, right? Because if we hold it in August, then we'll be colliding with DEF CON and Black Hat. And so just wanted to get a
Exactly.
general idea.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Darwin. Actually, we're looking at the November timeframe, early November, so that it doesn't, interfere with Thanksgiving and any of the other holidays, any of the other fall holidays. So hopefully we will have finalized dates in early to hold the conference in early November.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Darwin.
All right,
Hey,
David.
so, I wanted to ask a question about, you've been in organization management for quite some time.
Mhm.
And in organization management, you come into the organization, it's got a whole lot of things going on, a whole lot of initiatives happening. And then as part of your process, you're looking at the whole organism, and what you're trying to do is get all of these sort of butterflies, as you will, if you will, to
Mhm.
sort of fly in formation so that they have a outcome at the end that is representative of what you've been trying to, of what the organization is trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
How are you seeing Cyversity in terms of an organization? And how are you working to get all of the various chapters, committees, initiative groups, and clubs, and how are you getting them all to either dovetail on one another, flow in conjunction, flow in a process with one another? So as a person comes into Cyversity, they experience each one of those programs, and when they leave with a whole plethora of resources that, of course, they can turn around and come back into the Alumni Association and
Right.
give to the community. How are
Mhm.
you experiencing that with Cyversity?
So what we're doing, we're really working with our chapters and chapter leaders to, like, develop the engage programs, the develop programs. We all have the same mission, right? The same mission of, providing all of these resources for women and underrepresented minorities. I'm sorry, David, I lost my train of thought.
That's
You
all right.
asked me.
Yeah, the whole purpose is, how do we get this organization to be organizationally fly? How do you herd the cats and get the butterflies to fly in formation so that at the end of the day, the result, the outcomes of what,
Mhm.
as part of our mission, we get to the absolute outcomes that we're looking at and looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about collaboration. It's about keeping everybody focused around all the goals and, the mission of the organization. I'm in constant communication with the chapter leaders, with the board, just making sure that we're all singing off of the same page,
Right.
continually having conversations with folks about, this is our end goal. This is the mission. We all, like you said, have to fly in that formation to get to where we're going. The chapter leaders, the board, we've all bought into, the goals of the
Mhm.
organization. And so again, it's about working together to bring about those goals.
Good, good. And in this particular effort, the Cyversity Impact Alumni, I
Mhm.
know our mission, our thought process is to work with folks like Joe Jeffers. I'm just talking about mentees that I'm very
Mhm.
familiar with Kashan and Ian and Serenity, and take them through a process, take
Mhm.
them through a mentoring process that helps them come to the understanding of what this particular industry sector is about and
Mhm.
how to find your way successfully in it, and then
Right.
sort of shove them out the end of the door and bring them into an alumni engagement that does a
Mhm.
couple of things for them.
Right.
Gives them the ability to develop their career through our tools, um, to network, and to give back, and among other things.
Right.
That's just my impression. And I think we're always on the same page when it comes to this, but that's just my impression. Are there other things that need to be um, done for mentees, to
Mhm.
mentees, with mentees, to provide them more ability to be successful after their engagement with our Cyversity?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. And actually, I've been talking with Bev Benson and her team that support the mentorship program. And what we want to do this year is to really equip mentors to learn the best practices and give them resources to help them guide those conversations that they're having with their mentees, and finding ways to stay in touch with folks, and not
Mhm.
just a one and done sort of relationship, but really building and developing relationships with mentees, so that you're partnering and you're getting together not just during the mentorship period, but a lifelong relationship. Um, I don't know if you're aware, but Cyversity was granted a sub award under the University of South Florida 502 project grant. And in that capacity, we're going to be providing mentorship. And I see the CIA, the Cyversity Impact Alumni Group. Who was it that coined it? Was it Bennett that said CIA?
It might have been Bennett that coined that phrase for sure.
That's right. Shout out to Bennett Hendricks.
No doubt, no doubt.
So yeah, I see that group, the CIA group, really contributing as mentors in this 502 project. Working with the students to help guide them and lead them and provide some career pathing with
Right,
them.
right.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think that's going to be
I want to stay on the Cyversity CIA, but I also
sure.
want to ask a question that I often hear from mentees. It's a broad-based question that they always ask: how do I get into cybersecurity? And we've got folks on the line that are from other industries and want to find their way here. And I tell them my rendition of what I think it should be from a basic non-technical perspective, because you've got to change your mindset
Right.
to really want to be in this particular industry, because it is a paradigm shift. It's not as it always has been. When you meet a person that's, let's just say they're in banking or they're in some other field, what do you tell them about cybersecurity and entering into this particular business sector?
Yeah. So Cyversity has a tool, an assessment tool for people who are looking to transition into cybersecurity. There are 52 roles, right, more or less, within the cybersecurity profession. And so having those folks take the assessment will help sort of guide them into, which role they would best fit with and best align with. So that's what I tell folks who are new to the industry or even thinking about pursuing a career in cybersecurity. Take that assessment, see what your natural skills and abilities align with in terms of, which role take that assessment so that you can see which role would best fit your skills, knowledge, and abilities.
Right.
Yeah.
And in that, and then in that conversation, have you had follow-up conversations with folks that have said, I've taken the assessment, says I should be a CISO or I should be an analyst? What kind of feedback are you hearing from folks that have taken that assessment?
I haven't heard any, to be very honest, David, I haven't gotten any direct feedback myself, but I do know that as folks join the organization and take that assessment, they do say that it does take a while to go through the assessment tool, but it is a good tool and help them really develop a plan and really sort of develop a pathway for their career.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's I've actually taken that assessment myself, and I'm not going to tell you what it told me I should be, but but I'm satisfied with the responses that they've given me. I wanted to ask if anyone in the crowd had a question for Maggie Domond before I move on to the next series of questions. That's my pause that Devin asked me to give him. I always say silence is acceptance. If you have nothing to say right now, you're accepting where we're going. Since you've been here, I mean, like in any organization, there's always these ups and downs, and there's always a certain amount of fluidity. What difficulties, if any, have you come to experience and encounter, and how did you deal with those things that you ran across and encountered?
You mean on a professional level?
Well, of course, on a professional level. Of course.
Okay, so on a professional level, like I said, it's really difficult navigating the professional world as a Black woman. We've got so many labels and obstacles in our way, the whole angry Black woman moniker that, so those are some of the difficulties that I've had to overcome. And the way I've done that, David, honestly, is finding a good mentor, finding sort of that internal champion that's going to help you move your career along and champion. And honestly, getting a mentor at the leadership level, so that as the
Mhm.
decision makers are having those conversations around salary and promotions and all that, your internal champion will be
Right,
working to champion and advance your career.
right. Good to have a mentor, like as you said, a mentor that in time turns out to be a sponsor. And then that sponsor is actually the person if they're in leadership role that is able to speak for you in those conversations at the end of the year conversations when they're talking about budgeting and staffing allocations. If your name doesn't automatically come up, they're the ones
Mhm.
that bring your name up in that conversation. I think that's a
Exactly.
valid point. I was also alluding to, you're here at Cyversity.
Mhm.
It can't be all good. It can't be it can't be all roses. There's got to be there's I won't say that there's thorns, but I'm sure there's got to be some things like. I mean, as you encounter those things, how are you dealing with right sizing, or right approaching, or right correcting what you see as a challenge in the process for Cyversity? Because I'm sure, like any other organization, we got some things to work out. We're getting there.
Absolutely. I have to really thank Eric and Larry. They've done a great job shepherding the organization, leading the organization. To your point, it's not all roses. There are lots of areas for improvement within Cyversity. So I'm looking to really sort of codify some of the processes that we have. Prior to my arrival, there weren't necessarily like SOPs in place and,
Mm,
an operational handbook and things like that. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking to do, in the very short term. I'm working with virtual also.
right.
Virtual provides fractional staffing for us. And so, I'm not a one-man band, thankfully. I've got a lot of help, not only from the folks at virtual, but also from really dedicated volunteers such as yourself. Um, you
Right.
know,
Right. Is one of your goals, I think I heard you say one of your goals is to develop and generate and grow the membership.
yes.
Are there specific things that as members we should be doing? And are there specific things that Cyversity Impact alumni should be doing to help you reach those particular goals?
Thank you so much for that question, David. Awesome. This is my opportunity to tell folks, we transitioned to a paid membership model
Yes,
in
yes.
January,
Mhm.
early January. So please, if you haven't done so already, renew your membership and recruit more members for us. Help us in this fight of, uplifting women and underrepresented minorities. Go out and evangelize for us. Tell your friends and neighbors how great Cyversity is. Donate to the organization. Donate not only financially, but also donate your time. Join one of the mentorship program. Become a member. Become engaged. That's what we really want. We want folks who really are engaged with the organization in the fight with us of helping to guide and lead that next generation.
Mhm. As an individual,
Mhm.
any individual, you always want them to do all this, to do part of the ground game, if you will, to help us generate and grow our membership. Are there specific things that we should be doing in our schools, in our churches, in our clubs, in our sororities, in our fraternities? What should we be doing to help sort of generate interest and create magnetism and attraction for our Cyversity in those groups? Is there a toolkit that we have or that we're generating to give each person so that they can have that process in hand to generate more magnetism?
Yeah, that's also another good question, David. Again, I would encourage folks to continue to stay involved. Talk to evangelize on behalf of the organization in all of your circles. We do have just actually put on the website a an impact report which shows all of the,
Nice.
Cyversity by the numbers, how many scholarships
Nice.
we awarded, how many mentor pairings, all of the good work that we did in 2021. And so that's a great tool as you're sharing information about Cyversity to really demonstrate to folks, look, these people are really working. This is what they've done. And, folks can get that impact report online at
Great.
cyversity.org right now.
One of the other questions that come up, I know we're talking about minorities, women and minorities. What I've seen is that we've got a little ways to go with Latinos. We've got a little ways to go with different types of disabilities. Whether one young gentleman here, Dwayne Oliver. Dwayne, if you want to come off mute, you sure can, and hear this question or ask this question yourself. But Dwayne was saying, I'm partially handicapped, a male, a minority, and past the age where corporates will give me an opportunity. What do we do, not necessarily for Dwayne specifically, but folks like Dwayne, what do we do to help sort of bring more attention to that particular, hey, Joseph, you might want to go back on mute, Joseph, because you just came off mute. What do we do in that for those types of folks that see that their prospects are a little less appealing than the general population? Do we have things that focus in that area?
We don't have things that specifically focus on, for example, folks with different abilities, but if they are interested in pursuing a career in cybersecurity, apply for a scholarship, apply for these training scholarships, because obviously we want to help them help grow their career. Yeah, I would just encourage them really to apply for some of those scholarships and training so that, they can at least get some entry level skills.
Sure.
And then from there they can
work on. And I'll add to that that one of the organizations that I've been working with is the Department of Labor. And I'm not sure where you're located, Dwayne, but the Department of Labor has a very aggressive apprenticeship program that has very recently, in fact, Q3 of last 2021, focused very heavily on disabled individuals. And they focus very heavily there because we know they know that that's a gap. The Department of Labor knows that that's a gap that's not being addressed effectively. So I'll put my email in the chat for you, Dwayne, so that I can give you some direction to one or two resources that I know that could be helpful for you in that particular area.
David, I'm sorry. Would you share that resource with me as well? Because I'm sure that's a great some great information for you.
Absolutely. I'm looking over here to my left because I'm looking at a whole list of notes that you and I sort of talked about earlier today. You've got some significant background in management. Top line goals for this group back here. Top line goals for that group, the alumni group, and how do we? I know you and I are going to be talking more about this, but how do we get a mentee that didn't have a great experience to convert to being to be a alumni and then a mentee alumni? What do we do for a person that has not had the greatest experience?
So what we should do is have them come back to the mentorship program, and become a mentor. So share that, bad experience that they had. And then we will in turn work with them to develop the resources to become a good mentor. So what is it that they missed in the previous mentorship experience? Turn that negative into a positive by you in turn giving back, becoming a mentor and giving back yourself. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Sometimes walking a mile in somebody's shoes.
Exactly.
gives you a little bit more perspective as to
Yeah.
what
But
that
I would,
really feels like.
yeah.
I see that. So I wanted to ask if anybody else has got any questions, because I got more questions that I'm definitely I've got here. Now I wanted to ask about advice for some of the mentees that are on the line now.
I have a
Some of
question.
them. I'm sorry, Jason. Did you have a question? Because I saw you came off mute and
Oh yeah.
even came on the camera.
Yeah. Um.
Introduce yourself, please, to
Oh, hi.
Miss Domond.
Hi. I'm Jason Quick. I'm based here in Houston, Texas, and
Jason.
considering the K through 12 initiatives, I'm wondering what's the best way to approach this. Is it some sort of pilot program for a school, or should I go by district, or something like the Texas Education Agency?
I'm sorry, Jason, can you repeat the question?
Um, regarding the K through 12 initiatives,
Mhm.
when trying to suggest the Cyversity partnership,
Mhm.
what do you think is the best approach for this? Should I suggest something like a pilot program for a specific school, or
Yeah. Mhm.
by district, or trying to get in touch with someone from maybe the school board or the Texas Education Agency?
Yeah, I would start at that local level, the local Texas level, or you could even reach out, as David mentioned, to the Department of Labor, because they have programming for K through 12 as well. But definitely start at the local level, the community college level.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else? Questions? Keshawn, Jeffrey, Joseph, Janice. Janice, I see you're back again. Great to see you again. Serenity, Darwin. Anybody else have any questions? Countdown from 5. There you go. Maggie,
Yes, sir.
I typically keep moving on. So, I mean, when you talk to mentees and when you talk to your colleagues,
Mhm.
what kind of advice are you giving them to to sort of push the organization forward? What kind of advice are you giving to your colleagues at Cyversity in their particular roles? I mean, you can include me in that too. What kind of advice are you shepherding and giving to us so that we can continue to be really focused on? Because most of us are volunteers, right?
Right.
What are you telling us, and how are you helping us to stay focused and to stay engaged and to stay energized?
You answered the question for me, David. The advice is around staying focused, keeping in touch with the committees, and the different working groups, staying engaged, connecting with your peers, so that you can exchange information and learn and grow from those peer group networks.
Yes. Is there specific advice that you give to a mentee that's new with no technology experience?
Mhm.
What kind of advice would you give to that kind of person?
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no,
One of the things I really like to focus on is health and wellness, because first and foremost, if you're not healthy and if you're not feeling whole, you're not going to be your best self, right? So the first piece of advice is take care of your mental health, your physical health, all of those things. We all know what we need to do to stay healthy. Make sure that you're focusing on that so that you can be your best self. And then the other piece of advice I would say is, to give back. A lot of times we internalize things. We think that maybe we can't impart any wisdom to anybody, but at any level, you can always make somebody's life better and really
right.
nourish and feed that person's soul. We have to take care of each other, right? So that, and I think it's incumbent upon us all to be stand in the gap. For example, a lot of times people are going through things, you don't even know that they're going
Sure.
through things, but just being available and present and aware for people can be a huge blessing. And it
is.
not only does it do good for you, for the person that you're helping and mentoring, but it also is rewarding and fulfilling for the person
Sure.
who's offering the help.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always said that what we bring to technology is us.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of people, process, and technology, it's interesting that it's stated that way, as it's
Mhm.
people first,
Exactly.
and
People
then the
first.
process that people have to follow, and the technology they have to apply to the process to solve a problem. And so
Absolutely.
it's really interesting that you said that we've got to nourish the whole self, because
Mhm.
if you can't bring a broken you to something this kind of a discipline in the practice, because they're
Exactly.
kind of inconsistent, because there's so much that you have to put into your work as a cybersecurity practitioner. Has anybody got any questions for our executive director? Keep asking that question. So Maggie, I know that you're heavily vested in Cyversity. What else do you do? I mean, do you ride bikes? Do you go fishing? You have archery? What else do you do outside of that other than work?
I tell you what I love to do, David. I love to bake. I love cooking, baking. It reminds me of spending time with my grandmother.
Mm.
Um, so my mom obviously had to work outside of the house. So when I came home from school, my grandmother was always there with, some kind of baked good, some cookie or something. And she actually taught me how to cook. And she really developed a passion in me for cooking and baking, because as we were baking and cooking together, she was imparting a lot of wisdom, sharing a lot of her life stories and so forth. So baking always reminds me of spending time with my grandmother.
Great, great. So you're a young woman, a young black
Mhm.
sister, a young black sister. You
Uh-huh.
got you got you got you got you got many more miles to go before you sleep.
Sure.
What's next for you? And then what's next for Cyversity? And then we'll
Mhm.
get to what's next for you.
Okay, so for Cyversity, I really see Cyversity growing and continuing to develop our programs. And then I also see Cyversity working with organizations to really make that to create a better culture for women and underrepresented minorities. And what I mean by that is not just, talk the talk of diversity and inclusion, but really working to hire more minorities and underrepresented women and underrepresented minorities, and creating an atmosphere where we feel comfortable, where we feel welcome, where we feel like we belong. Because, like you said, it's one thing to hire a diverse talent, but you've got to really work to retain that talent. So a lot of organizations now, yeah, they'll put one or two, Black folks in positions, but then you don't do anything to nurture them, to make them want to stay in that company.
Right.
What I really want to see is organizations promoting women and minorities to leadership positions. I think we talked about that a little bit, because that's how we're going to affect change. If a young Black woman sees another Black woman at that leadership level, she says, wow, that's representation. I can see myself doing that as well. So I really want to work with organizations to address that representation gap, because we've got to see it to want to be it.
Would be it. All right, great,
Yeah.
great. Ian, you got a question? Got to come off mute too. You got your hand raised.
Yes, sorry for the delay. I'm interested in paying some information about mentor opportunities for those who may want to pursue cybersecurity related work in the governmental sector. We've talked about that before, aiming for work at some place like MIT or even in intelligence agencies, or for that matter, connections that you mentioned, Black Hat and DEFCON, which I've read about for some time. For instance, to acquire skills which would allow one to one day attend these forums and make a meaningful contribution to them, so to speak.
Right. I remember a while ago, maybe 2 years ago, we sponsored folks to go to Black Hat. I know that's one thing that we did a while ago. I think it was in conjunction with some of our partners too. Maggie, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been Google or one of the other companies that sponsored a couple of our mentees to go to Black Hat and DEF CON. Is that in the working? Are we looking in that direction to get sponsorships for folks like Ian to go to Black Hat and DEF CON?
We are absolutely working to develop those relationships so that, you know, our partners can offer us free registration for our members to their free or reduced registration fees to their conferences. Absolutely.
Great. Any other questions there, Ian?
That's it for now. But to attend, say, Black Hat one day and have the skills to understand the contents and maybe even make a contribution to that would be amazing experience. It would be actually probably necessary for the career path that I'm envisioning into the government services. So.
Right. Ian's a former scientist. Looking to transition into cybersecurity. I said, well, that's very impressive. So, you've given us an idea of where you see us moving and what you would like to see in terms of related to more minorities, more women. I mean, we're making strides in the industry. How are our partners responding to, well, let me start here with this question, because there are quite a few folks here that are entry level. Are these jobs still available? Are entry level opportunities and positions still available? And what do we do? And I hear this question a lot from some folks. I mean, how do I even get going? How do I get started? Where do I get started? And I give them not only my rendition, and I start mentoring them from ground level, because as I said in another conversation, this thing has levels. I can't take a person that hasn't got a lot of experience and put them in front of a Julian and say, Julian, mentor them, because that there's a little bit of inconsistency there. And so what are we telling folks that are coming in off the street with barely any expertise at all? What are we saying to those folks?
We're saying to them that there are lots of opportunities within cybersecurity. We have partners every day posting their jobs on our website. There are more roles to be filled than people to fill them. Absolutely, check out the jobs board. Look at the look at the job description. See where you have gaps. Take some training to address those gaps. But there are definitely lots and lots of roles. And also contact Kevin Dotson and the other folks working with him in terms of career readiness and helping people to work on their resumes. They'll work with you, review your resume, tell you what you need to do to sort of get to the position that you want. They'll help you prepare for your interview. I'm telling you, that's a great benefit that we provide. Sure. Yeah, I would encourage any entry-level person to do that.
Sure. So what's the next 10 years look like for Maggie? Where's Maggie going to be when she's 35 or something like that? When you turn 35?
You're nice. You're a kind man. You know what? I may be in Austin. David, I've been in the Washington metropolitan area forever. And I'm getting to a point where, man, the snow, the cold, I just can't do it anymore.
I'm done. I'm done. But go ahead, Maggie.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, just continuing to grow as an individual, stepping into my power, doing my thing, contributing more, giving back more. All those things are really important to me. And I see myself continuing to do that, maybe in Austin, Texas.
Sure. You'll be welcome here for sure. I think I have just one last question for you, and it has to do.
David, this is Lewis.
Hey,
Before
Lewis,
we
how
get,
are you, sir?
I'm great. Sorry, I've been
Please
off
introduce
my.
yourself in full to Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
It was nice to meet you.
I'm actually here in Washington D.C. right now. As a matter of fact, until
Oh,
tomorrow. Yes, I fly
awesome.
back to San Antonio. I'm from San Antonio. But I'm a director of a cybersecurity operations center in San Antonio. I've been in government service for quite a while. I've also worked for MITRE in the past, but really I wanted to kind of backtrack primarily to Ian's question about the government role, or how do you break in? And then if anyone else is interested in that, I've placed my email address in the chat, cyberalist@gmail. If you want to grab that, I'd be more than happy to kind of help you, through and see if we could make some connections. But one of the things that you really want to do if it's government service that you want to break into is be prepared to kind of go through the process to gain that security clearance. That's one of the big things that's extremely different between, inside the government and outside. And once you grab that clearance, once you're awarded that clearance, then the doors open up a lot more. But there are ways to get in. Companies don't like risk, as you know, so they're reluctant many times to take someone and sponsor them to the entire process. But there are ways to do that, and I can help. So if anyone's interested in that, send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you.
So if I may,
Yes, sir.
if I may, what's required to obtain a security clearance? I mean, you must be a U.S. citizen, and not having any kind of criminal history doubtless helps. Anything beyond that?
Well, you don't have to be a U.S. citizen, and you actually can have a record, a felony. It depends on what the felony is. You can have multiple felonies. There's a process that you go through, but it's not as stringent in the never having making a mistake. But there are some things that definitely won't be allowed, right? Sedition, and if you're known to be favoring communist governments, you've been active in any type of activity that promotes the overthrow, things like that. If you've got massive financial problems, they look for things that would make you an easy target for extortion or bribery, because after all, you're going to be entrusted with some of the U.S.'s most guarded secrets, and the idea is to select folks that are pretty much encapsulated from being easy victims to enemy forces, right? So there are some things that, but I can help navigate you through the whole system. There's some tricks of the trade, but the bottom line, no, you do not have to be a U.S. citizen, and you can have some scars. It just depends on what those scars are and how many.
Wow, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Louis,
Yes,
out
ma'am.
of curiosity, how long is that vetting process for security clearance?
It depends on the workload. There's really no strict timeline. And that's kind of the reason that companies are reluctant, because they would hire somebody for a role and then initiate the process. It could take 1 year, it could take 3 years, it could take 4 months. It kind of depends on how OPM processes, right? OPM, Office of Personnel and Management, are the ones that are kind of overseeing that whole process. So what happens is, one of the tricks of the trade is that they hire you in a role that doesn't require the actual secret clearance, but what's called an NAC, National Authorization Clearance, which is much easier to get. But the drawback, I won't say a drawback, but what you balance is that typically they're not going to pay you as much because they won't be able to use you. But that's kind of give and take. So they're able to build a government, but the idea is that after 6 months or 8 months or a year or so, now you've got your clearance, and guess what? Now you have the door opens, right? But you've got to kind of go in understanding that the company is trying to reduce its risk, so they're going to pay you lower than what you would normally make because you don't have that clearance. The other option, or one other good option, is to join the military, and not necessarily does it have to be active duty, but even reservists, right? I've counseled many young, especially young folks that are trying to figure out how to get in. If you were to join any one of the reserves, it doesn't matter, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, in a field that requires you to work in a secret or a top secret environment, then the government is going to host you. And of course, those services are awarded. You're at the top of the list. So that's one other way, and that's what I was talking about with the tricks of the trade. There's some ways to get in, but you've got to kind of know what they are. But someone with skills, technical skills like a scientist, there are other ways as well where you don't have to compete as much because you have a skill set potentially that the government needs. You just kind of have to find that organization that's looking for that skill set. And because they own the access, they can accelerate the access. Does that help?
Great information, Louis. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
That's great. Louis, yeah, that's really great, Louis. Does anybody have any more questions for Louis and or Maggie? Or Maggie and Louis? That's the way it should go.
That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, of course, you know the deal. And so, yeah, but that's incredible feedback, Louis. It's great. Are there any of those, and I know this is going to sound like a stupid question, but I have to ask it anyway. Are there any of those opportunities subject to any kind of obvious ageism?
For government service or civil service, no. There are limits for active duty military service, but so you have to enter, and it depends on which service. Air Force I'm most familiar with because that was my branch. It's about 35, somewhere between 35 and 38, depending. There's some waivers that are there, but they shoot for not that you will be accessed or assessed before your 36th birthday.
Right.
And then the Army, it's a little bit higher, maybe 38 or something like that. Don't quote me on that one, but I know it's higher. So depending on which branch, but that's active duty Air Force. But for civil service, and then it depends on if your GS, which is a competitive way to get in, versus GG, which is based on your skill sets. The GG side of the house is more relaxed than the GS side of the house. GS is government services, and GG is the intel side. So the answer is there's a basic age, 35, but that can be adjusted a bit, and that's for active duty. If you're not active duty Air Force or active duty Army, active duty military, then there's really no age restriction.
Great. Thanks, Louis. Appreciate it. Maggie, back to you.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
No, thank you, Louis. I'm absolutely thrilled that you were able to, help on the spot, Ian, with that response. Thank you very much. And I may be reaching out to you to, talk about developing some resources and tools specifically around, government work.
Great. Maggie, we're almost at the end of our time, but I wanted to know if there were any questions that you might have, or any questions you may have for me and anyone on the group, any of the mentees or mentees that are on the group. Most of us here are mentees. Louis is obviously a mentor. Kelvin Harris is obviously a mentor. And so is there anything that you'd have that you'd like to offer to us? Any questions you may have for us too?
I actually would love to ask a mentor the same question as, and I also want to ask the same question of the mentee. Why did you join the mentorship program, join the CIA group, and what advice would you give, and how would you encourage others to participate in the program?
Now,
So
don't
maybe
hide,
Ian,
Serenity, Kelvin.
right? Hello.
Serenity, Kelvin, Louis, don't hide.
Good afternoon. Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Good. This is Kelvin Harris. I'm the project development manager from the city of Richmond. And I'm coming on. David called me a mentee, but I'm also, a mentor, but I'm also one of his mentees because of my being a career switcher. And I came on board with this specifically trying, love the mission. And it is the mission also of the office that I work in. Office Community Wealth Building is specifically working with underserved populations and trying to reduce poverty, specifically in the city of Richmond. And this is a great opportunity. I love technology. I think it's a very, very lucrative and a playing field that if you develop that skill set, you can do great things. I see us at an area now, I'm a big sports fan, and I look at the path of the Black quarterback in terms of how that has evolved over the last 20 years of me really being looking at sports. And now us taking a look in the sports vernacular of coaches, general managers, and ownership. And I see this field of cybersecurity and technology specifically like that, where we need to get to a point where when we see others like us, it's not an anomaly or something while that person is in that area. So I want to be a part of that going through. And one suggestion, and I guess my question I can go while I'm on now is, are there organizational memberships as far to being part of Cyversity? Can I, because I am in an ability to kind of try and sponsor some of the folks yet in Richmond to continue to participate who may have some limitations financially, at least at the very start. And then also, is there a mentor, mentee, electronic toolkit that maybe could be developed if one isn't developed that could help the process?
You know, that I'm glad you asked that question, Kelvin. That's a great question. Now, the answer to the second question is yes, we are in the process of developing a mentorship toolkit for that specific reason, to help guide. And right now the process is manual, and so we're looking to get a platform so that we can automate the process, and just alleviate a lot of the manual paperwork.
I can jump in here for a second if you guys don't mind. One other thing that I had spoken with Kelvin about, because not only they're a client of Austin Brooklyn, but they're also, so there's several of their city residents are mentoring at their request and their behest. Kelvin's office is interested in looking at developing a chapter in Richmond.
Awesome.
And so Kelvin is no better person to speak to about this than the executive director of Cyversity. And so I can definitely do an email to introduce you two guys and gals, two folks together, so that you can start the conversation, and we can get through that and let you understand what it takes. And so you can gather the resources, if you will, to become a chapter with Cyversity.
That would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Kelvin, to address your first question of, is there a corporate membership, I can reach out to you offline to talk about how you can pay for memberships for other individuals, if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Yes, thank you so much.
And thank you for supporting the organization.
Good. Any other questions for Maggie before we close the door on questions? Serenity, you got a question? I know you're itching to ask a question. In any event, hey, listen, I want to thank everybody for coming today. It's been a pleasure. Before we leave, I've probably got a couple of things that I got to close out with. Especially, I'm going to share my screen really quick so that you guys can see some of the things that I've got here to discuss. Excuse me, real quick. There you go. So we know that's Maggie. Come on, Dave. Yeah. So here are some events that are coming up that you should pay attention to. Cyversity, the Texas chapter is on the 26th of Wednesday is holding a MITRE attack, a webinar, excuse me for fumbling there, a MITRE attack webinar. You have to register for that. So go onto the website, click on the events, and you'll see the registration for the MITRE attack webinar that's being hosted by the Texas chapter. And you can see for the next couple of months, we've literally got our whole first quarter Q1 and Q2 of interviews already booked. Next month, we're going to have Michael Palmer. He's the CISO of Hearst Communications. And then in March, Brandon Perkins. He's the practice manager for Amazon Web Services. I'd love to get Louis Pate on to do something, but that's really up to him, right? You'll see how he responds to that. Of course, in April, Octavia Howe, another Black woman who is the CISO of Equifax Canada, right? And Lisa Beth Lenton in May. She's the CEO of Worldwide Endeavors. And in June, Ryan Higgins, a good colleague of mine, good friend of mine, is going to be on. He's the CISO for the Department of Commerce and the Deputy CIO for the Department of Commerce. He's going to be on in June. That's Michael, excuse me. And then also, I'd like any of you to really look at this link and copy this link down, because Cyversity, as you can see, we do have a annual report that we put together. So we want to be able to develop metrics from all of our conversations. So we'd like you to go to our research page or our survey page, and then put in your information or put in your feedback about how this particular session went. If it was useful, if it made sense for you, if it held some good information for you, and if you felt any benefit from that. I'm going to stop sharing there and come back to you folks. I hope you can see me again.
Okay.
Good. Maggie, I really appreciate you coming on and spending the time with us. I know this recording is going to be spread wide and far, but I'm thankful for the time that you spent with us and the information that you gave us. I hope this time was beneficial for you as well. And I'm looking forward to collaborating more and really putting our arms around and formulating this alumni committee, because it really, these are our most important resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our mentees. It's what we do with them, it's how we collaborate with them that really makes a difference for the organization. But before I go, I know you asked the question of the mentors, and I know you asked the question of the mentees, but I didn't give any mentee an opportunity to respond. Before we go, does any mentee want to jump on and give an answer Maggie's question about what is it that you'd like to see from what made you join, what made you come, and what would you like to see from Cyversity? And then some of you are very verbose when you're not on this forum. Don't be shy at all. Don't be shy at all. I'm gonna be very tight if you get shy now.
They're free to email me if you have a question that you don't necessarily want to share with the group, or if you can provide your answer that if you don't necessarily want to share with the group, feel free to email me your feedback.
One of our leaders, Sheldon, has opened up his mic. He probably wants to say something. Don't you, Sheldon?
Awesome.
Yes, I do. Excuse me if I'm a little choppy. I'm actually driving back to Richmond. Just drop off my daughter at college, and I'm glad I was able to be part of the meeting, even to just hear the different, insights of where Cyversity is going and the leadership. I do appreciate the opportunity that presented through the connections that I garnered throughout the time, from David to mentors, as you mentioned, Kevin, to Serenity, Jason Quick, and various others, and seeing the upcoming, such as Kashawn.
Yeah, I think he's breaking up a little bit there. You're breaking up, Maggie. Serenity, come off mute. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to type now. No, you're not allowed.
Okay. He's talking way out, Serenity.
Yeah, I know. David keeps picking on me.
Hi, Serenity.
Hi,
nice to
it's
see
really
you.
nice to meet you. And yeah, I put a message in the
Great
chat.
opportunity. There's so many different other options.
Oh, I think Sheldon's still
Yeah,
trying.
Sheldon, you were coming in and out, and you actually disappeared for a couple of seconds. So Serenity started talking.
I did.
Serenity, you mind if he finishes? Serenity?
Sure. Yeah, please.
All right. Must be in a good zone. I just want to say thank you for each and everyone's time in this session, because definitely together we all achieve more, from Serenity to John Quick to Kevin Harris, every involvement, to even Prashant and his say involvement in the various different consortiums. I joined the group to be part of such organization, and I do say that I'm glad I did, because his continually renew the interest to uplift myself and also my surroundings, the people around me. So it's just a thank you.
Thanks, Sheldon.
Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, we did, Sheldon. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Serenity.
Serenity, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sheldon. Yeah, mentored Sheldon a little bit. That was great. And thank you, Maggie, for sharing your email too.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's really exciting for me to hear about your vision and all the different things that you have planned for us to even improve Cyversity. That's really, really exciting. And I'm actually really excited, being an alumni, that you're thinking about those of us who have gotten our foot in the door. I mean, for me, I made a career change, thanks to David. He was my mentor. And I also was part of the pilot class for the SANS. It was, ICMCP at the time, but I was part of the pilot Diversity Immersion Academy with the SANS and ICMCP. So that really got me started and able to make this career change. And then David mentored me, and I actually had the opportunity to mentor someone else the last half of last year. So that was pretty exciting too. I felt like I was just one step up the ladder, but it was still very exciting for me to mentor somebody else, even though I feel like I've just barely got my foot in the door, and I'm still early career. So yeah, so it's really exciting to me that you're thinking of even those of us who are in cybersecurity, but maybe we're still exploring. Like, I feel like I'm still exploring different areas and different career possibilities,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Serenity, I love your story. As a matter of fact, I'll reach out to you offline to maybe, make a short 60-second video and share your story with the membership. I love it.
Great. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Maggie. That's what
Awesome.
I'm very excited about, your initiatives, and happy to help, any way that I can, of course.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may regret saying that to me, Serenity, because I'll probably call you on Monday.
She's already agreed to be part of the leadership, if you will, of Cyversity alumni. I drafted her and Darwin and William, a couple of the folks that have always that have been with us since we started this Hustlers Club Black 3 years ago. So you asked for it, Serenity. You go. Yeah, it's a good thing.
No, always happy to help.
No doubt. So Maggie, look, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate what you've done. Unless you have anything else for us, I want to say thank you very much for coming on and giving us an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. Right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, David. And I'm happy to come back anytime to chat with the group.
Oh, absolutely. You see what she just did? She just did what you did, Serenity. You want more? You can have more.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate the time. And you guys all have a great week. And we'll see you all next month, if not in between now and then. Okay?
Awesome.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank
Bye,
you.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.